live stream before.
All right, here we are.
Hello.
And I've got the guy who debated Jason on here, and I've got some guy with 69 subscribers.
69 subscribers.
Yeah. Talking about shit, and this is the shit that we're going to be talking about, or that's mainly on my mind, is the fact that we've elected essentially an alt-nationalist.
Well, I like to admit.
Yeah, I didn't do it. Like, I'm from Australia, so.
Yeah. Oh,
we
yeah.
didn't do it.
I didn't do it either. I didn't vote. Or actually, no, I did vote, but I didn't vote for that fucker. I didn't vote for him. I didn't do it. I may be American, but I didn't do it. And neither did the Norwegian fellow, what is anarchism here?
Yeah, I didn't vote either.
Well, yeah, you can't even vote in the American election. You're not a citizen.
What? Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So, I mean, generally, it seems like there's kind of a rise of the far right lately. I mean, even in Europe.
Yeah, definitely. It's getting more and more powerful everywhere, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I think Europe, though, is much more equipped to fight it than America, where America's always been very right-wing, even compared to other countries. And I mean, looking back on it, I think Trump, I mean, the first day I saw Trump, I'm like, this guy is ridiculous, but he's dangerous. Because I know the Republicans are going to vote for him. They're going to vote in some guy who's been on TV, because Republicans tend to be even less informed than a lot of the liberal voters, who still aren't necessarily the most informed, in my opinion. I know that Troy here, the guy with 69 subscribers, he is not as like political on these issues, but he's been in a couple of live streams with me before.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of hard to understand the pulse of policy, like, because with Australia, like, we don't tend to have there's some people who'll be like, because we got Labor, so Labor is more of a left leaning, and Liberal is more of a right wing libertarian point of view, but it's not really like the right wing doesn't really have a hold on Australia as much. Like, the only right wing we have is we have like a few Senate seats that we can that we had. I'm not going to compare her to like Pauline Hanson's One Nation. That's kind of like the closest you could have to kind of a right wing ideology. But she managed to get like a lot of. She surprised pretty much all of Australia by managing to win like plenty of seats on the Senate. But she doesn't have like the control to actually.
She sounds like a UKIP style party. UKIP, essentially, they don't win anything, but they're essentially just there to be a voice for old racists.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily label her as like, she's not necessarily racist. Like, she's got certain sort of there are certain conservative values. She does have a number of good platforms, I think. Like, she is one of the ones. She's one of the question kind of Islamic sort of immigration whatever. But there's a lot of other platforms that I kind of will agree with her on. Because she does call out a lot of the BS that comes with the politics. But the nature of Australian politics, it's sort of like there might be people who'll be like Labor or Liberal, and they'll be that way for life. But most of us, like, we're just going to vote for our Prime Minister, like whoever's going to do the best job. So one year I'll probably vote for like Labor, and then the next year it might be Liberal, depending on who I think is going to be the better Prime Minister.
Well, I mean, as anarchists, we're generally not fans of the bureaucratic system. But I do think that you can be clear on who is a better or worse choice for certain things. Like, it's clear that when it comes to just human rights, Donald Trump's going to be a human rights disaster.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm not saying just let in every Islamic immigrant without any kind of vetting. I do think that there's way too much fear mongering in America around it, especially since we actually do have a vetting process in America, and that prevents most of the people from coming in from actually being terrorists.
Yeah, and I think it's a stupid argument that there might be terrorists, because I'm pretty damn sure that if ISIS really, really want to do an attack in America, they have resources to send someone in another way.
Yeah.
And it's so few people are actually dying of terrorism. If you think about it, there's more people in America that dies of guns by toddlers.
Yeah.
Maggie
Yeah.
Simpson.
Yeah. Maggie Simpson picked up a gun and she did a lot more damage than ISIS did to America. Well, also, the funny thing, too, about ISIS is that they have bigger things to worry about, like the actual soldiers that the U.S. has sent overseas to. They may be special forces, which makes them technically not count as boots on the ground by American standards. The ground.
Yeah.
Quite frank, we have boots on the ground in America. Our drone program has been going and killing a lot of innocent people, a lot more innocent people than it kills terrorists. And
Yeah,
when
I
you
mean,
when you
our
kill
gun.
someone's family, you have a much higher risk of actually radicalizing the person because, oops, we killed your family trying to fight terrorists, and they may not have been fans of ISIS, but they're thinking, well, look at what America has done. This shit needs to stop.
Yeah,
I mean,
and then
that's
some
like,
idiot other Islamist group comes and, okay, we hate America, and then the ball's running.
and then yeah, we have well, also when America goes overseas to fight these groups that were fighting amongst themselves, like Al Qaeda and ISIS. Why can't we just fucking let them kill each other? Why do we have to go over there and fight them and force them to unite? It seems very counterproductive to actually stopping terrorism. Like, it's one thing for the people who are already there to make sure that they have, like, the people who are in those areas to defend themselves from terrorism, and the neighboring countries to kind of protect their territory from it, to like keep the terrorism contained where it is. But you're going to have a lot less people killed if 90% of Al Qaeda kills 90% of, or 90% of Al Qaeda and 90% of ISIS fight each other and kill each other.
What do you think about Rojava?
I can say that I don't have enough knowledge on them to support them, but I can say that generally I haven't seen very many bad things from them, and I do support their fights again, and I do support their fight against ISIS. But they seem a bit social democratic to me. So it's not like they're an anarchist organization by any means of the word.
Wish thinking. Maybe that didn't translate it very good to English. I don't know.
Yeah, that yeah, and if I tried to translate to Norwegian, you'd want to smack me upside the head because I'd say something dumb. I try and say hello, and I say I fucked your mother because I don't know. I confuse some kind of accent in the some kind of like pronunciation. I don't know.
Yeah.
a bit here, but I'm one of those. I remember when I first started speaking Spanish, I would like mess up words, and some words they would be spelt nearly the same, but they'd have like they'd have an accent in them, which would mean that you have to pronounce it differently. And if you pronounced it without the accent, it was another word, like English and Spanish. If you say it without the accentation on the E at the end of the word inglés, or inglés, I'm terrible at pronouncing it, but if you mispronounce it, you're actually saying crotch in Spanish instead of saying English. I speak crotches.
I don't think there's many schools in Australia that do Spanish. Like mostly we learn Asian.
No, you guys learn how to speak. You guys learn how to speak kangaroo.
The kangaroo, yeah, and we've got to learn, like, I think if we're going to communicate with like New Zealand, we've got to learn, like, because I think we need translators between us.
For, like, you got to learn consent.
Yeah, you got to learn how to.
Yeah, I love to make fun of their act.
Yeah, we tend to learn Asian. We tend to learn the Asian languages, like because of our proximity to the in the Pacific, and so like most of the time we'll like teach Japanese. So in like the freshman year, like everyone takes it, but then like when you do sophomore year and whatever, you can do it in like you can kind of elect to. So I kept studying this because I kicked ass in like Japanese and that, like with the script and all that. And thank fuck I actually learned it because I made it because I lived there for a year like doing like English teaching or whatever. Yeah, it's easy to learn. Like as a spoken language, very easy to learn. Like you just got to get your head around the script.
Well, I can say that from my little bit of experience with Japanese, that it was much easier to learn how to speak, but much harder to learn how to write. Like Spanish was very easy to learn how to write, but when you're learning about like accents in Spanish, it is very hard to pronounce the accents correctly, especially if you don't have experience speaking any other language. What is Anarchism here actually has a lot more experience speaking another language, considering the fact that he lives in Norway.
Yeah. I learned Spanish as well. I'm not particularly good at it, but it's super easy to write, especially compared to English.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that Norwegian is one of those easier languages to learn if you already know English.
Yeah, because
of
English
its similarity.
And Norway is a Germanic language too, so we share a lot of words and a lot of the grammar.
I mean, when it comes to English, English is a pretty big mix of both Germanic and Latin, which is why people will say languages like languages like Spanish and German and Norwegian are easier to learn for someone who speaks English than something like Japanese.
Yeah, like Japanese, the grammatical structures are very piss easy to understand. It's just the only thing that turns people off is actually learning the like the phonetic script and the kanji symbols.
Yeah,
but you pick them up easily enough. Like even though there's like thousands of them, it's like, you know, once you get exposed to them like a number of times, then you know it's. But then they got two separate phonetic alphabets. Like one of them's for their native language, and the other one is like it's for the like westernized world. They call it I call it English. It's like for the yeah.
That's so one way to put it.
English script for words that are foreign to them, and so you got to use a separate script for that. And that's the one you should learn. If you ever go there, that's the one you learn first, because you won't be able to read like a cocktail menu or whatever if you don't have that.
Oh, if you don't have the if you don't have the westernized version of it.
Yeah, so if you don't have the westernized scripts, you're pretty much fucked if you go to a restaurant or whatever, and you look through the cocktail menu, and you just gotta, all you have to do is just like sound it out, and it's gonna sound like a Japanese pronunciation of a Western word. So like you're looking at the you look at the list of like One of them, I thought it was like it's like cow piss or something like that. That's what it was like spelled as, but it was like another brand of like some kind of like lychee juice or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have much experience looking at cocktail menus because in America, you are allowed to go and kill innocent children in the Middle East when you're 18, but you're enough to drink, apparently. Now, pick up this gun and shoot some third world proletarian kids, but don't you dare ask me for a shot of vodka. I mean, that's America for you. Like, come on, you're old enough to serve and to serve imperialism, but you're not old enough to do something fun.
Yeah, I don't get that. And like with our guns are regulated. Like it's very tight like because we don't have that in our like I don't even know whether we have a constitution. Yeah, obviously we have a constitution, but there's nothing to do. Like there's nothing stopping the politicians from just saying, you know, no more guns. And that's pretty much what happens.
When it comes to America, there's not actually a thing. When it comes to the Constitution, when it was set up, it wasn't set up to just be this thing that was like God and King of all laws to ever be made.
No, it was to keep the King of England out of your face.
Yeah, well, it was also when you actually look at what it does. When you look at what the Constitution, what the fathers said about the Constitution, they said that they expected it to change, progress. They didn't expect it to be like the gospel for politicians that the U.S. has made it as. It's meant to be able to be amended so that the rules of an older generation don't have to be the rules for the new generation if culture changes.
It's Homer Simpson again. It's like, I have to have a gun. It's in the Constitution, and you know, you want the King of England to come in here and start shoving you around.
However, I mean, I'm not sure what your position is on this. What is anarchism? But I mean, I'm generally very pro-gun, but I don't have any illusions that the Constitution's Second Amendment is so that I can have a gun in case I need to defend myself from the government. That's not what the right was for. There was actually a lot of like insidious shit with the Second Amendment when it came to like slavery and stuff. It was meant for a dual purpose. It was meant for militias. This was before a police force existed, so it was essentially militias that would come together and essentially act like what a police force is. And it was also used to give slave patrols the rights to have guns so that they could make sure their slaves don't leave the property. So it wasn't necessarily to, quote, protect your rights.
Yeah, I'm pro-gun myself. That's a pretty rare opinion in Norway, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be a generally popular opinion amongst anarchists that even if you don't like guns, you're pro-gun rights. That you think that I don't think I need a giant stockpile of guns. Like, I'm not going to be like Alex Jones and have 52 different firearms. What do you need 52 firearms on you for? Because at the most you can carry a couple at a time. Maybe have like a rifle, like if shit ever hit the fan and you had to actually go and do some hunting, maybe have a rifle. But I mean, carrying a pistol should be just fine. I mean, you can still protect yourself with a pistol.
Yeah, yeah. I can't listen to those like friggin' apes from like the what is it? What's the I don't know. It's supposedly news journalism, like because I've got equal disdain for both. Like I cannot stand the Young Turks or the other side, the rebel media. Yeah, like I can't listen to either of them. They just like
Well, I
Yeah,
don't think it's because the Young Turks are extreme when it comes to like my disdain for the Young Turks. And I mean, I would rather watch the Young Turks than watch any of the cable news because the cable news is absolute, like, it's completely devoid of any character, any kind of like political opinion. In fact, I'd rather, even though I disagree with Fox News a lot more than I disagree with MSNBC, I'd still rather watch Fox News because at least I could get involved and yell like, "No, there aren't terrorists in the U.S. right now. We're not being secretly invaded by Muslims." Fear mongering. Like, I kind of think that I can do that. I can yell at the screen. That's not something I can do with MSNBC. What I can do with MSNBC is go, you're just such a corporate shill, and I'm gonna fucking, I'm just gonna play Skyrim now. Like, now I know why some people are escapist about this shit. It's because MSNBC and CNN are devoid of any kind of character or opinion or even fact for that matter. But I mean, the Young Turks, I can listen to them, and while I disagree with a lot of their thinking, they can annoy me on the fact that they can be very centrist on a lot of things and tend to actually favor the right in many ways.
yeah. I just think just some of their reactions to because from where I'm because just as an out because I'm kind of like an objective outsider, really looking in on the American politics. So it's like overall, like I'll be thinking, okay, Donald Trump has won, so the first thing the Democrats want to do is to, I think the best people to win over if they want to like be in the next people in charge is to try to win over the centrists or maybe the disaffected left is to try and win them over. But
well, I'd say the disaffected left because those were the people who didn't vote would have probably preferred Trump over Hillary, but I mean, voter apathy because of the way that Hillary ran her campaign, where she essentially said, "All of you, we're going to win this thing anyway." And while she did win the popular vote, the first past to post system, leaving it, and the Electoral College system in general means that it's not even actually a representative democracy, but I mean, not only is it not a representative democracy, it's just in general not a democracy at all. They don't. So while the votes in different states, the fact that states that have less people actually have more power with each individual's vote. So the fact that the whole Midwest was won by Donald Trump, which it doesn't even have to actually be won by that much to still, because with the Electoral College, it's also it's winner takes all essentially, where it's not like they get a proportional amount. It's not like they get a proportional amount of electoral votes. They just straight up, if you get the majority of a state, if you get a majority of the state's votes, even if it's a small majority, you every single, or you still take every single Electoral College vote in that, which, of course, there's nothing to actually stop them from, the electoral voters, from going in just anyway, voting for another candidate. It's called a faithless elector. But just in general, it's a clusterfuck, to be honest.
While I definitely do not like the election system in the United States, I don't think the way that the states, that some states are like limited in the amount of votes. I think it's a good thing that the popular vote doesn't necessarily win itself. Um, I, the reason is, for example, California is a huge fucking state. So if California were given votes according to their population, they would have dominated the country a lot. So, but there are definitely problems about the election system in the United States, no doubt. But that's mainly in, as you mentioned, the fact that it's a first past the post system where you win, you get it all. It should have been a proportional. So, for example, it should have been using different voting methods. It should have been using point-based voting, where you give the candidate points.
I mean, personally, I'm not. Personally, I'm not really a big fan of it, but I think that would be a better alternative to just the winner takes all in every state.
Yeah. That's stupid that we have a winner takes it all system, or you have, because we don't.
Yeah, we have a lot of stupid shit in the U.S. The U.S. is just full of stupid shit. I mean, the U.S. is full of genocide for one. I mean, look at what's happened with Dakota Access Pipeline, where they're like, oh, they're natives. We don't fucking. Oh, I was just hearing myself, and then I realized that I had actually gone into the stream to look at the chat, and oh, that's rich. But yeah, it absolutely. Look at the North Dakota Access Pipeline, for example, where it's like, oh, we can just put this through native land. We don't care. They said they didn't want to put it through their town, so we're just going to move it to native land. And the natives are protesting. Oh, just build it anyway. And if anyone protests, just shoot them with a rubber bullet, which if you shoot someone with enough rubber bullets, that can actually be lethal. Like if you get hit in the eye with a rubber bullet, that can actually get the rubber bullet into your brain if it hits you like directly on the cornea, directly on like the pupil or something. It can actually fracture the bone and make it and actually get into your skull. There have been documented cases of people just dying from rubber bullet injuries. Are officially labeled as non-lethal. This doesn't mean that it is humane in any way, in any sense of the word. I myself have been shot by a rubber bullet, and oh my god, does it fucking hurt.
Well, I saw them. They did it on Jackass once, and it's like it looked like it fucking hurts, like the bruises that were left behind.
Well, I mean, it's a piece of rubber going the same speed as a bullet. It's not gonna feel great. It's no. worse than even getting hit with a BB gun. I mean, they're still launching rubber bullets with gunpowder, which means that it's being launched pretty fast. If not the speed of a normal bullet, at least the speed of like a musket ball. And I don't know if you know this, but musket balls, if you actually got hit by one, it was deadly.
Yep.
But it probably is going faster than a musket ball because it's a smaller object. Plus, you still have the rifled barrel, which means that it's still able to shoot accurately. I mean, that's just basic engineering. That's how that shit works. Because the way that a musket ball worked was it wasn't very accurate because the barrel wasn't rifled. It was just kind of like what you would get with a cannon, where it was just a smooth inside of the barrel, where a rifled barrel would spin the bullet and spiral it so that it could basically hit just coming right out of the barrel. But with a normal musket, the ball just kind of tumbles forward and can easily go in a different direction. You can't hit the broadside of a barn reliably with a musket. However, when there were people lining up, like in like the Revolutionary War, and they all lined up and shot with muskets at each other. Oh, I mean, at that point, yeah, very easy to get shot because it's just so while you might be aiming for one person, you'll hit someone who's you might hit two people to the left, and it's like, well, I still got a kill. I still shot someone. He's still out of the battle. It might not have killed him right away, but infections would kill him later. And then, yeah, I mean, the Native Americans, it doesn't matter. You can just put the pipeline through their land. If the white men don't want to have the pipeline going through their land, it's going to have to go through the Native Americans' land. And if the Native Americans protest, just shoot them with rubber bullets. Repeatedly.
Isn't there like a law like that protects the like Native American land or something?
You're funny. You act like the U.S. actually respects its own laws.
Okay, yeah. I don't know, this poor Australian here.
There were treaties, yeah, but the U.S. doesn't care. The U.S. breaks its own laws all the time. I mean, we're not allowed to torture by that's not even just a Geneva Conventions thing. That was actually a U.S. thing. Is that the U.S. said, "Hey, we are not allowed to torture people because we may not have someone who is actually guilty, and if we torture them, we are doing something terrible." We ignore that all the time. We go to an extrajudicial system and we put suspected terrorists on a bay in Cuba in a supermax prison facility, and 80% of them are innocent and have never done anything, but we still waterboard them. There was what was called rectal feeding, where they would essentially stick a tube up your ass until it reached your stomach, and then they would feed food through there. Of course, Dick Cheney tried to defend it by saying, "Oh, it was probably for medical reasons." However, doctors are like, "Yeah, that shit just doesn't happen."
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. has no respect for its own laws. Yeah, there are technically treaties that are meant to protect land, but they never actually.
Most of it. Because I guess most of our, I guess you can compare the with our Indigenous Aborigines in Australia. It's like the obviously like the approach is it's like a very like it's a consultation sort of approach, like a collaborative type of approach where you kind of look at the major stakeholders. So there's the traditional landowners. So there might be projects that encroach on that. Like it's mainly mining type projects, like ore type mining, like copper mining or whatever. And usually it's like if it's like going to be in like an area that's near the Indigenous settlements, like the idea is to there's certain projects that will like sort of secure jobs for the local people and try to empower their communities as well. So it's kind of like a kind of win-win, and it's very much a negotiation type process. And to actually get these like any sort of projects under the line, it's just like it's got to go through a lot of bureaucratic channels.
Well, I mean, that's better than just being allowed to say, well, white people don't want it through their land, so let's just put it through Indigenous land, where it can endanger their only source of drinking water, for one. I mean, that was one of the biggest issues, is that the pipe was going to be over, I think it was like a lake. And that lake is like the source of their water, of all of their clean water. And then if there was some kind of disaster with the pipe, it would lead to the death, or it would lead to like the death of many animals, for one, and two, it would lead to the indigenous population around there not having any clean water. However, it does seem like since no one showed up, this is going to be another short one. So, guys, Lonely Wolf 1987, you can look up his channel.
Yeah, like literally fucking lonely.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because he's asexual.
And yeah, and because like we've got such a small like echo chamber in this hangout.
Well, I mean, you don't identify yourself as a feminist. I mean, you're not a social science like rejecter, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like because I even like because I'm even like it's sort of like it's more like a second wave of like of, if anything, it's more of a second wave of MRA, which is like probably needed. And it's a little bit more, it's kind of more in sync with feminism. Like I use some of the like there's like gender tools and things like, or gender theory, whatever, that does apply to that. But to make it more specific for like the MRA type purposes, sometimes like I have to kind of remold certain ideas. And I guess trying to provide some sort of theoretical kind of framework to underpin that, because that's what's
Well, I know that
that's what's
I also
missing.
know that you specifically, the first time I was ever in a hangout that you were in, I said that Polylum was a dick, and you said I echo that sentiment.
Yeah, it's and that's what sort of got me to sort of making a channel, because like I tried to read through like I was, you're trying to look for literature and you just want to reach everyday men who are not really political or whatever. And obviously the audience is like it's like transgender gay men or whatever, and maybe there's room for an intersectional approach to that, to this ideology as well. And even sort of like non-binary, like I've got respect for them as well. But I can kind of understand where that experience comes from, because like, I've gone through that sort of thing before. I've questioned like the gender identity, whatever, like at a young age.
Yeah. Well, Troy, you are a filthy SJW.
Yeah, well, it's
So,
like mangina.
You
like
guys
mangina.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm about to end the stream. We can continue talking after this. I'm just gonna quickly
Cool.
stop the broadcast.
All right, thank you for having me. Thank you for listening to me, people.
Yeah, and thank you guys for sticking with this, those of you that actually watched.